Welcome everyone to our second Wow Property Women guest speaker, being Rebecca Ramsay, and we're talking about the person I need to become. And today we've got a topic that we've explored in lots of different ways. I know I've read books on it, I've had coaching on it, and a lot of people sort of get this one around the back to front, I think. So I've asked Rebecca to talk about that. I've also asked her to talk about what sort of thought processes we need to be going through in our decision making, so that, you know, the times have changed. We all know that, and it's a new world. The word reset is being used a lot. So this is where we're perhaps resetting our thinking. And that's what I would like Becca's to talk about today, delving a little bit into personality profiling and how that impacts, but mainly around the be, do, have. So with that said, Becca's, I'm going to hand it over to you. And every now and then we'll pop a question in if they arise, and pretty much let you lead this one. Thanks.
Thanks, Lorna. It's lovely to be chatting to you all today. Lorna and I have so many wonderful conversations, so it's lovely to be able to sort of expand that out. I've prepared a few slides to sort of guide our conversation today, and because of our time frame, and I'm really conscious of everyone getting on with their day, I'll probably talk fast because that's just how I go. But essentially, what we want to think about is, what has to change right now? What changes do we need to make into the way we're thinking, we're feeling, we're doing, we're planning, because we can't really afford just to stop. So when things are normal, much of what we do is on autopilot, and we work autonomously, and our subconscious takes care of so much of our daily lives, and we don't really realize that until something shifts. So most of the time that serves us well, and we cater to it with time to adjust. We've got, if something's not going right, we've got an opportunity to shift around that. But the current situation, and for future reference if people are watching this, the coronavirus situation and pandemic globally means that what would usually serve us well isn't necessarily going to cut it. Our stress responses have been activated, and unless we choose to consciously take back the controls, our flight or fight response will be making decisions for us. So on autopilot, we get to kind of chill and relax and rely on what we know and what happens automatically. So a lot of my time is spent with clients, usually on strategic planning and that longer term. And this is based on the assumption that the autopilot is on course. But right now we need to go back to manual mode, so to check our dashboards, to manually adjust and to be sure that we're on track, especially if we're wanting to continue to progress and to continue some level of momentum, even though it might be in a different direction from usual. So right now is about focusing on what's relevant and doable and within our locus of control. There's not much point in focusing on things that we can't control. So to that point, I want to get really practical today, very relevant, very sort of day to day. This isn't the time to do a lot of long-term planning, at least not at the expense of keeping things manageable. So while it's great to have, and I got a lovely email yesterday from a lady I know who said, I know this is a very absurd question, but she said, we've had to cancel our travel plans for this year, and to keep me sane, I've got to be thinking ahead of something that I'm looking forward to in the far future. And she was asking about, going to see the gorillas in Uganda. So that's great because that's keeping her upbeat, but we can't be spending as much time as we might usually on that kind of thing at the moment, because we just have so many unknowns and uncertainty is so prevalent. So if we are looking too far out, we're going to feel less and less in control. We need to be able to focus on what we can influence, what we can impact, and what we can do. So making things happen in this kind of environment, and people talk about goal setting. I'm not a fan of goal setting. I'm a fan of actually goal achieving. So I talk about goal achievement strategies, like what's actually going to make the things happen. So even though things aren't how they used to be, we still have to make things happen, right? I don't know, we can't really be sitting around watching Netflix for the next who knows how long. You keep hearing that. People go, just chill out, put your feet up, have a cup of tea. I don't know who those people are, because in my world there seems to be so much that still needs to be done. And normally our mindset is going to be taking, we can take that for granted in that kind of situation. So we'll set a goal, we'll make a plan, we can take action, and our mindset is happening. It's happening automatically, and that's that B that Lorna's referring to as well. So we can kind of rely on the fact that it's there already. What's different in the current environment is that if we don't choose it consciously, and I'm sorry I'm looking that way because I've got another screen there, if we don't choose it consciously, that can be a real issue, because our fight, flight and our stress response that's kicked in means that our default mindset isn't necessarily something that's going to support us getting things done the way we want it to get done. So at the moment, we need to make sure that we work on that on a conscious level, and that we choose what that is as a part of this process of achieving the things we want to achieve. If we don't, then we're likely to, miss the actions, and the plans kind of go out the window and the goals kind of disappear. Okay, so if we don't manage our state, if we don't manage our be, who we are being, then it will manage us, and it won't necessarily be in the direction that we've chosen. So Be Do Have is a model. It's actually a coaching model. It's a way of planning and thinking and doing that you may or may not have come across. And what it talks about, and I love it because I'm a big fan of reverse engineering, so starting with the end in mind. What that means thinking about, what do I want to have, what the results are, the outcomes I'm looking for, what's the goal? And I know I'm talking to the converted in this kind of group, having those plans and goals set out ahead of us. So, we're quite familiar with working out what that looks like. And what comes before that, of course, is then be able to make a plan of what needs to be done to get us there. Yeah, and for a large part of community, that's where the goal setting stops. So we go, we have a goal, but then of course you've got to have a plan, right, of how you're going to get there. The other part of that is that being, right? And this is often the key reason that the goals aren't achieved. So we have a list of what to do because we know that that's, what we've been told, but we don't necessarily consider who we need to be to get those things done. Okay, there's a disconnect between the expected actions and the mindset of the person to complete those. And in an environment like now, that's exacerbated. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about that, because obviously if we are, I'm going to use an example so that we can have a look at that. Let's take the basic, I've never run 10Ks, so it's not that basic, but let's say I want to run 10Ks. So that's my goal, and I need to obviously make that smart and specific and timed and all of those things. And then what do I need to do? Well, I need to do the training, and that's going to involve a whole range of things that I'll get someone to instruct me on what needs to be done. But for me to go and run 10Ks, if not done that before, I'm going to need to be a few things. Yeah, I'm going to need to be committed. I'm going to need to be dedicated. I'm going to need to be accountable. I'm going to need to be motivated. So if I don't take care of all of those things, is the training going to happen? So this brings to mind for me, I did Kokoda a few years ago in Papua New Guinea, and I just said yes the minute it came out as a goal. I just said yes. And then I was just given the list of training. It was an 8-week training. I'm like, really? From couch to Kokoda in 8 weeks? I wasn't quite sure how that was going to happen. But the real work wasn't in the training. The real work was completely in the being, in the mindset. And that took me getting accountable. It took me I had the most amazing group of friends who weren't coming on Kokoda, but they would turn up for all my training sessions. So I was always meeting someone. And it wasn't until the last few weeks where I was completely on board with all of that and loving it, that I would go and train by myself. But I had someone turn up every time. Yeah, because being isn't just a matter of saying that is. So my challenge for you to think about is, okay, so I've got my goal, I've got my, my to-do list, but what have I got on my list of being, and what do I need to check in on that? So I want to do another example here. Currently, and here's another goal, I'm relating this to myself as much as I'm sure many of you can relate to as well. I want to have, ideally, a positive isolation experience with the family. I can hear some of you laughing in my imagination, because it sounds like a bit of I thought that sounded like a really achievable thing a few weeks ago. And now I'm really wondering. So, but for me, a positive isolation experience with the family. What are we going to need to do? There's so many websites and people telling us how this is going to happen. We need to have a plan. We need to create space. We need to create time out. We need to create for activities. We need to eat well, exercise, be healthy, have fun, meditate. So sounds easy, right? Turns out my first family meeting about how that was all going to roll didn't go so well, because I needed to really step back and think about who I needed to be, and that I can have all the plans in the world, but right now I need to be super duper flexible. I need to be relaxed. I need to be patient. I need to be kind. I need to be creative. I need to be loving. I need to be mindful. I need to be patient. I need to be kind. I need to be creative. So I can't see any of your faces while I'm doing this, but I'm imagining that, you know, there's some relevancy there. Yeah. But just think about that. If we go back and take that away, okay, I've got a plan. Now, if that plan doesn't work, where am I looking? Who am I frustrated with? It's probably not me. Yeah, in the first instance, like, why aren't you guys on board? So keeping a real sense of understanding of what I need to be, which is the most important list on that page. So this is where the B becomes so critical in our goal achievement strategies, in our making things happen. Yeah, let's just call it making shit happen. Because if we don't have that in place right now on a very conscious level, we cannot rely on it being there. Because without me deciding what that B is going to be, yeah, here's what my B is, my kind of default would be at the moment is being a bit stressed, being a bit intolerant, being a bit nervous, being a bit fearful. Yeah, those are my defaults right now. And I say mine, and I'm talking on behalf of a lot of us. So I need to get real clear on, actually I need to be these things. And guess what that creates? Another to-do list. Yeah, for me it's taking the time, whether it's, you know, for your nighttime or in the morning, when do I get, you know, that time that is just me? When do I carve out that little space that allows me to do my meditation or whatever it is that might keep me on track? All right, so the to-do list can't be complete without the B list. So many arrows. How are we going? Have I missed any questions or anything at this moment? Or we're all tracking? Okay. So, sorry. We've gone crazy. It's really gone crazy. Okay. So I wanted to give another example. Sorry, ladies. Imagine we are, you know, having our goal of saving for an investment property, yeah? Getting our next deposit together. I'm having some technical issues. Okay. So this is my last example, but just to get, I really want you to really start thinking about how this is relevant for you today. So if you are on this property journey right now, then you're looking to your next opportunity, then you're going to have a goal around, you know, the next deposit or the next investment. So there's going to be a list of to-dos that have to happen for that, yeah? Increasing income, saving, decreasing expenses, the list goes on, and you've probably likely done this before. Yeah, but right now is probably going to require some other things from you as well. So we know in general you're going to need to be focused and diligent and dedicated and purposeful and connected and all of those things that, you know, you would normally need to be to have those things happen, except that you've got all of this other stuff happening now as well. You've got uncertainty in the market, investors are going to be slowing down, you've got, you know, you haven't got the time and space during your normal day to do what you would usually do in terms of connections. You can't meet people face to face. So who else do you need to be to do what would normally just happen? And this is what I think is really important to talk about this now, is that what would be your usual state? You go, yeah, but I've done this before, but the world is a different place right now. Okay, so that's where the being becomes so critical in making sure that your do list is actually complete with all of the things that are going to need to happen for you to get to where you're wanting to get to. So the other point I want to make on that is that we can't just go from be to have or do to have. Yeah, if I sit there and just think about it and be present and all of that, it doesn't make it happen. Just like if I just start doing stuff, but it isn't connected to me being in the right space for that, it's not going to happen. So we need to have all three parts, and now more than ever, because those defaults just cannot, it's not something we can rely on, yeah, because our environment has changed. So Lorna mentioned, and I'm racing through now because I want to leave some time for some questions as well, about some profiling and stuff. So I work with profiling tools, and I do that with clients because it's all about developing self-awareness. Okay, so we tend to default to certain things, and we all do and be, but we do it in different ways. So this is a behavioural tool, which is something I've used this one because some of you will be familiar with DISC, a behavioural tool. So it's one-dimensional, but it gives us a sense of how we behave in relation to tasks, people, timing, and activities. And in terms of how we get things done, this gives us some really good keys to that. So we need a combination to get us where we need to be, and we all have our own recipe, and there's no right or wrong, but we do need to know what our blind spots are, like what is working against us in this process of getting to where we want to go and making things happen per se. So let's have a little bit of a closer look. So it talks about whether we are a D, decisive. Now, if we were, and we're never one of these, we're always a mixture, but I'm just going to talk in the extremes for a moment. If we're a D, we're a doer of action. Any action we'll do as long as there's action taking place. If we are, and if we're a D, we're a beer of being decisive. That's just how we are. If we're an I, an interactive, an influencer, then as a doer, we're impulsive. Yeah, and as a beer, we are social, or and that's external to ourselves. So we need that constant connection. If we're a S, a stabilizer, a supporter, then our doing is around others' needs, and our being is being considerate of others. And if we're a C, that's our cautionary, our compliance focus, then we're a doer of the detail, and we're a beer of a caution. We're generally quite cautious. And obviously these are just very broad strokes around how these kind of work. But what we can start to notice then, and you can start to sort of self-identify as to where you think you might sit, then it's a interesting thing to think about, okay, but is that the being I need to achieve what I need right now? Is that the kind of doing that needs to be done right now? Yeah, if I'm a high S, and I'm using that as an example because as women, especially in our home environments, because it can be a bit different from work and home, we often to be that stabilizer, that supporter. And now more than ever, of course, everyone else's needs are really coming to the fore. You're going to need to really check in and go, okay, so where is my component for self-stabilizing? Okay, and our interactive, so if we weren't already interactive, we're probably less so now, and then we've got to get online and do it, and oh my God, it's all just too much. But even for the high I's, and if those of you in the room that know my husband's super high I, I've noticed he's had to make a really conscious transition to physically not going and seeing people and getting online. So we're all having challenges at the moment with how we adjust. So knowing how you work, yeah, what makes you up, means that you can create a recipe that works. So it's not, as I say, it's not about what's wrong and right, but it is about understanding, how do I work? What are the ways that I respond in this kind of situation? What are my defaults? What are my blind spots? And, because everyone's different, just like it shows here. But once we know that stuff, you ladies know, we can work with what we know. If I don't know what it is, I can't work with it. I can't manage it. Yeah. If I don't know what the problem is, I can't, if you've got, Benny, I'm sure you've had this 1,000 times on your project down in Caloundra, if you don't know there's an issue, you can't fix it. Yeah. So if we don't know what we're dealing with, we can't manage it. So that's a little bit about how that profiling style of things works. Now more than ever, it is a time to get a bit real with ourselves and just dig a little bit deeper, I think. And I mean, it's such an exciting journey to kind of really take stock and take some time to think about it. And that can be as easy as just literally sitting down and thinking about, okay, what does my B list look like? And are those my natural, who would I need to be to make those things happen? Are any of those outside my normal scope? And start self-identifying that way. So, to my mind, it is about self-awareness, and it's about finding your recipe. Are you, less be a more doer, more be a less doer? What's your tendencies, and how does that work for you right now? Okay, we're 23 minutes into 30, so I'm absolutely happy to take some questions, and I'll bring up the chat box because I just hit it before. But also, just so you know, so on this, what I was just showing you, the behavioural, that DISC profile is something I work with a lot. And I said to Lorna that if any of you want to actually do an online profile, so I work with one of the world's leading versions of DISC along with some other things, but just at that behavioural style, I'm more than happy for you guys to send me an email, and I'll set you up to do that, and you'll get a written report that will actually just give you a huge amount of information of things to help you make plans and make decisions around how you want to do things right now.
So Becca, if I can step back in.
Yes, go.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, Becca's is actually offering that free, so there's no charge to that, which is very generous of her, and I want to thank her so much for that. I want to open up a little bit more discussion around particularly the property side of things. So for myself right now, I'll tell you some of the challenges that I'm getting, and I don't know if it's default or I'm shifting a little bit in my decision making around that, but I'm being a little bit more assertive as to where I can spend my time and where I can't, and also a little bit more assertive about what I'll listen to and what I won't. So this morning had an earlier Skype with a group who regularly meet on a Friday, and one of them started going, oh, look, I'm really fearful for you, where you are in this property cycle. People are going to come out with this financial challenge that, no one's going to be able to afford to buy. Now, if I take that on board, I'm in development, and I'm half pregnant. I can't abort. I have to go on. Bernie's the same, and others are the same out there. It's about, we have a goal and we need to complete it. So in order to do that, we need to be making decisions that tune out. I had to walk away from that, or click the button in this case. I'm being asked to do things that aren't my skill set. It's like, guys, sorry, my focus has got to be here right now. I set up, the kids and I, 4 daughters. So last night, only because we started last week for my birthday, I said, hey, how about we do this on a regular basis? Let's Zoom every Thursday night because we can all do it. They're the pleasure things that I'm choosing to bring into my life. So I think all of us are making choices, but the awareness of making those choices is also going to assist, because after I said, no, I'm not listening to that, it was like, good on you. Yeah, you needed to just move away. It was a peaceful retreat. No one got hurt, but I made a decision. And other choices where I'd normally say yes, I'm going, go girl. Yeah, you needed to make that choice.
Lorna, I said to you before, Lorna had said to me earlier, she said, oh, maybe you can share some of it about my profile and use that as an example for the girls. And I said, oh, look, I'm not sure how useful that will be. But you've given me an excellent example, so now I am going to do that, even though I said I wouldn't, with your permission, Lorna, which you've already given. So this is Lorna's, so can you all see a graph? Lorna, can you see that graph?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, great, so everyone can. So this is the graph that identifies your DISC when you do this profile. And Lorna just gave the most perfect example. So as an S, she's a supportive stabilizer. That's her natural style. Yeah, of behaviour. She's pace and people oriented. Yeah, it's yeah, very organised, consistent, thinks things through, all of that. And what she spoke about just now, beautifully worded, was I'm being more assertive, I'm being more decisive. And so that's that D side of things. So she's going, she's still maintaining the S, she's ticking the box on keeping it, but she's doing that with her family and those personal areas that need her. And then she is, you know, she's activating that decisive. Now I'm going to have to go a little bit further here, because I look at these as muscle groups. Okay, so we all have these muscles. It's just which ones are our strongest. And so right now is a great time to be strengthening areas that we might not usually use quite so much. So if I'm a low I, low interactive, I'm going to need to really work hard to build that up so that I can do that in this unfamiliar format. And for some eyes, that's going to be even better than having to meet up with people in person. But in Lorna's case, absolutely making clear decisions and saying no to information and people instead of placating. Okay, so the S, if that's your behaviour style, we're a placater. You will often take on other people. You'll make everyone else comfortable, but right now might not be the time to do that. Yeah, there's people in my family at the moment. I'm choosing just to message back and forth, because if I hear the tone of their voice, it's just not going to work for me. So that was a really good example, and of just using the muscles that we might not be used to be using to look after ourselves and our mission and the goals that we've got.
So has anyone else got questions they'd like to ask? Do you want to open it up, Becca, so that they can...
yeah, sure. I can unmute.
Bernadette, do you have any?
I'm going to really look forward to getting an online profile, because I think... Is that working?
Yeah, we can hear you. I'm just muting everybody else. Just unmute yourself when you want to speak, guys.
Okay, so yeah, I'm looking forward to the online profile, because that will show, you know, because you think you know where your muscle group is, but I guess when you get it on paper, that would give me a better indicator of exactly, you know, like you said, what you've got to start working on and building. Just regarding your goal achievement strategies, I think you sort of answered it, but, you know, so you do your 3 circles. Do you do that as a mental conversation, or do you, you know, with yourself, or do you write it down, or you just...
Yeah, good question. Bernie, you know me already. I have lots of mental conversations with myself, but absolutely write it down. Absolutely write it down now more than ever, because there's no accountability in having a conversation with ourselves in our head, and there's no real ownership of it. It doesn't embed. So absolutely write it down. And look, this is, I think, something that people who have been coaching with me recently are a little bit kind of taken aback. So, is there a template for that? Is there a form I fill in? And I'm like, no, there's an A4 piece of paper and a pen. And you know, and everything we do should be able to be done on one page, yeah, with some circles and lines and arrows. Because if it's more than that, and certainly right now, if it's more than that, it's a 20-page document as to how you're going to achieve your goal. If that's the only way you've got it formatted, good luck. So yeah, 100%. 3 lines, or, you know, split your page in 3. This is what I want. This is where I want to be, and you as well have know.
Roll it up on your vision board.
Absolutely. You know, use post-its. There's also for different ways to do it, but I'm a big proponent of hand drawing, writing stuff out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have a question, Desley? Yeah, no. We can see you. How are you? Just unmute yourself.
Hi. Oh my gosh, I'm a little embarrassed.
I love that. This is real.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Pressure on anyone. I just was all.
No. Look, that was absolutely fabulous. And I'm also looking forward to having mine done as well, because I think the B part is where I'm struggling at the moment, because I know what I want my outcome to be. And I have got my to-do list, but I sit down to do something and sometimes it feels a bit hard. So then I'll wander off and do the washing, or I'll wander off and do something else.
Yeah. So you're being distracted easily. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are being something. It's just, are we being the things that are going to get what we need done?
Yeah. So so I assume that this process now is going to be able to help me with that. That's kind of what I'm looking
It'll
for.
definitely help.
Yeah.
And look, perhaps if, for those of you who want to do your profile, maybe we can just do another quick session and I can talk you through how to utilize that report, as opposed to trying to do it with everyone individually. And we can look at that.
That would be absolutely fabulous. I think it'd be really helpful for everybody to get this down pat. I think we'd be able to get because once you get the doing done, well, then the results then are automatic after that, aren't they?
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, thank you. It's been fabulous.
Yes, that would be really helpful. Okay, thanks, Desley. You can
no worries.
I can go back to sleep.
Sorry.
You were listening, I know. I think one of the things that I got out of it was I was really surprised. People see me as assertive. They see me, I guess, a powerhouse in some ways because of what I'm doing. And perhaps don't see the nurturer side of me. That's on the property development side, because they don't see me with my grandkids and my family and friends and that sort of thing. And so it did surprise me too when my graph came back as a supporter. I'm going, really? Okay, but then when I think about it, that's what I'm trying to do for you ladies right now.
Oh,
what you
absolutely. It's written all over the walls, Lorna, the way that you do what you do. And you're not just one thing. Like, I'm just going to put this up again because I want to show everyone. So, I mean, it's not like you haven't got, D and I in there. They're both like really kind of, midway. So you've got, I mean, you're an experienced, well-developed human being. You've got access to all of these things. It's just that's your main thing. That's your main default. And your preferred, we call them, it's preferred style. So just for everyone's reference, so if you email me and I'll send you the links and whatnot that you need to do. So this is actually part of a larger profile that Lorna did, which includes a values matrix as well. And this helps identify, like, what are your drivers, what are your core drivers that must be being ticked for you to actually feel fulfilled. Okay, so that's where I said the DISC profile is one-dimensional in terms of this is our behaviour profile. That might be how I would describe someone, but this is our values. This is what's underneath. This is really our internals and what's genuinely important to us. And that, speaks to our fulfillment. So that's a whole nother level of understanding. And then you have the opportunity as well to look at your attributes index. And this graph is all about how we process information and make decisions, and understanding what we rely on, what we don't rely on when we're making decisions, and how to access that as and when we need it. So I just wanted to give you a quick view of that, because I'll mention that in the email that you get, so you can make a decision as to whether you want to do it or just a part of it at this stage.
And maybe next week that could be our review. Let's let everyone do it who wants to do it, and we can talk through, what is it that or how you read these things, and what is it. And if anyone's got some surprises in there, maybe you can hone in on those surprises, and that way.
We can do a group debrief if everyone's comfortable with that. Sometimes everyone doesn't want to show everything, but you guys are all friends, so you'll be right.
Some of us haven't met.
I'll be fine.
First time.
In this day and age, we're all friends.
That's right.
That's definitely an option.
I mean,
yes, we are. We're all friends.
This wasn't going to be, showing my profile necessarily, though I did offer it, and she said, no, we won't. So you've just seen the inside of me now, right?
There you go. We just had a deep dive on under the hood, Lorna under the hood.
But I think it's a powerful tool, and it can go much deeper, but this one will get you started in the thinking process of, I really do believe it's who we must become. And I've worked on this for about 20 years now, and I'm ever evolving, and I hope you are too. I think it's what's given me my solidarity to stand true to the projects that we're doing now, because it could be shaky ground, but I've just got to, as Sir Donald, I call him Don Moffat, says, never give up. Winston Churchill quote, and you'll see that in our membership site when we put Dons up, and we've got quite a few. Well, I was fortunate enough to go out and actually interview. We had Keith Grisman, Don Moffat, Leon Webber, Rebecca Horson, and My Story, and they're in the membership site. And they go for, you know, you need a cup of coffee, sit down for 45 minutes, something like that. But there's some powerful stuff in there, some real gems, and you'll see the personality profiles come out, because I actually asked them straight out, what are your values? What characteristics do you think you needed to get through a tough time? And I'd used them, I'd asked them to say a story, tell them something that they'd personally been through in property development that they really struggled with. And you'll hear Leon talk about, you know, this going, the bill went bust, this happened, and he was having a baby, first child ever, and the father-in-law died all at the same time, you know. But you'll see that there's characteristics that he holds and where he got a lot of his strength from that will reveal why this is also important. And I think this self-awareness is the first part, just the first part. Self-awareness to know, right, that really surprised me. Like I said before, that really surprises me that I'm such a, well, in that instance, I look like I'm very caring. I hope I am. But I didn't think that was my strongest attribute. I felt
you don't start a meetup group to support others' learning and education without being an S, Lorna. So and you don't start anything without having the level of decisiveness and determination that you've got either. So this is the recipe that makes you up. We are not, it's not a box that we fit you in. It's an understanding of how you come together.
Absolutely. So within that, you know, the membership site, and when we put those up, and we've given you some snippets just to have a look, I want you to look at their profiling, if you can, once you've learnt these skills. And I think it's wonderful that Rebecca's offered this to everyone for free. And we'll do a review next week. If anyone's got any other questions, now is your time to ask, because we'll close out if there's no more questions.